So you end up on a mountain in a cave, just you and your sister and
Yeah,
your father, who has now been broken by what he has experienced because he was
yeah,
fearful in
yeah,
Zoar. He couldn't stay
yeah,
there. And so you end
yeah,
up in the mountain
yeah.
and this complete isolation. And how did you feel in that circumstance?
That was a very hard circumstance. My father was indeed broken. He had lost his home and everything he had worked for. He had lost friends and family that he had created there, and he had lost his wife, my mother, and he was very different. He was very broken. He was not the same father that I had known. And part of us felt sorry for him, and part of us was still a little angry with him for wanting to give us up. But we watched his brokenness and we became fearful for our family, for that would be, we would be the only ones. And when he died, it would just be me and my sister. And there would be no legacy, there would be no kinsmen, there would be nobody left of our lineage and our heritage. And we didn't have
So you were
fiancés.
afraid that you weren't going to survive under those circumstances, and you'd seen so much destruction
Yeah,
that you knew survival was at risk.
yes,
So this is difficult
it is.
because we never know how we're going to act in a certain circumstance until we get there. So,
We were desperate. We were falling into desperation because the man that we relied on was broken and he was declining every day and drinking, and he just couldn't seem to shake himself out of it. He just couldn't seem to get it together. And we, being women, it's just we our outlook was dire. And we were desperate. We were beginning to get into desperation. We were beginning to believe, why did we survive it if we are not going to survive it? And so it got dark, very dark.
very good point. You survived for a reason, and otherwise, you could have just been caught up in the consumption of Sodom. So,
Yes.
but your decision, how did your sister respond? Because it was apparently, according to the reports that I've read, your idea that you should both um, commit incest with your father in order to produce children, in order to have lineage, in order to survive.
Yes.
Um, how did your sister respond to that?
At first, we discussed not having lineage. We discussed not having family. We discussed not surviving. We discussed a lot of things. There was a lot of tears. Oh my goodness, there was a lot of tears that we shed, and we just were so desperate to change the circumstances. And out of desperation comes desperate ideas. And when I came up with the idea, well, we have to start our own lineage now. We have to create family because we don't have any, and we don't have fiancés. We won't have kids. We won't have anything. We're gonna die in this cave. And I came up with the idea, and I'm not proud of it. It wasn't the best idea. But it came out of desperation. Desperate people do desperate things, and I was desperate. I was so desperate, and I came up with this idea, and I went to her, and she was hesitant. And until I said, "Look, baby sister, are we going to survive this or not? I am not going to just die here alone. I'm going to leave some lineage behind." And we knew if we went to our father in his brokenness, he still would not have agreed to it. But we were trying to save him too. If we gave him lineage, if we gave him children, maybe he'd have something to hold on to and to live for. Maybe he could shake back and shake it off. We were just desperate to get our father back. And so she was not on board at first until I had to do some hard talk and give her some tough love and say, we have to do it. We have to do it. I hate to even think back on it, but I did it. And I did it to save my father and to save us. And once she understood the dynamics of what the big picture was, she agreed. She reluctantly agreed, and we formulated the plan.
Did you realize or understand that changing your identity from daughters of Lot to mothers actually raised your social standing and your ability to survive, because as just two women with a father who couldn't protect them,
Mhm.
that you would be very vulnerable if you did encounter other people. But just being mothers with this man, who maybe you didn't tell everybody, this is my father, he is
We did
the,
not. We
no, yeah, I mean, that would be awkward,
yeah,
but in the naming of your children, both of you, acknowledge that those children are the children of your father, because your son's name is Moab. And of course, Moab becomes a very great tribe, as does Ammon, or Ben Ami, I believe is his name. But
yes.
both of those names really go back to your father. They don't try to conceal the
No,
source. And so, in retrospect, I'll just ask you this question. I don't know if you've married, and do you have other children now?
I do.
Have
I
you met, did you ever meet another man in your life other than your,
did. I did.
okay. So, if you had it to do all over again, would you make the same choices?
At that time, in that particular moment, I would make the same choices. I would make the same choices because it allowed us to survive. And survival for my father and my sister was of utmost importance. We weren't saved just to die. We were saved to do something great. And through this incestuous act that I concocted, I did create we did create great men that led great nations. And so, therefore, if I had to do it again, I would make that same, wow, that same very compromising, very incestuous decision. I would. It saved my father, it saved my sister, and it produced greatness. Maybe wasn't intended to do, but God was very forgiving. And He saw through my desperation of what I tried to do. And He blessed me and my children and my father and sister uh, to um, to produce seeds of greatness. And so, although not the best thing to do, and not something I would advise everyone else to do, I have to say I did what I had to do, and God made it work for my good.